Hi, I'm Matt from Bonsai Terrarium. Today, you have the pleasure of joining me in my favorite room in the whole house. And that is the room where I keep my 7 parakeets, Sun Conure Clancy, and most of my plants, as you can see around me. Today I wanted to talk about something that's neither bonsai or terrariums. It's actually vegetable gardening, which I've gotten into over the past couple of years. And I wanted to show you how I start my seeds, the entire process basically, from the soil mix, starting the seeds, planting the seeds, watering them, all that bullshit. So I just wanted to talk about my setup before we actually get into the process of starting the seeds. What we have over here is essentially what I've been using to start cuttings, and it works great for starting seeds as well. Down below, I actually have this pad. It's a foam pad with a mylar backing on it, so it basically reflects all of the heat from that heat mat back up into the trays. And the trays obviously sit on top of that heat mat, and there's 4 trays on this particular heat mat. The heat mat's actually connected to this thermostat, which keeps the temperature of it. But I've found that since I have my light so close to the trays, it actually keeps the temperature of the soil. Looks like it's around 76.6 right now. So I turn the heat mat off, but I leave the temperature thing in there so I can measure how hot the temperature is and make sure that I'm not cooking my little seedlings. So let's get down to business. My soil mix is 1 part peat moss, 1 part perlite, and 1 part compost. I'm using this soil mix because I want to have an organic garden, and by having the compost in the soil, it means that the plants will be able to just grow in their cell trays, and I won't have to fertilize them or do anything until I plant them out. Oh dear. So before I add my soil to the trays, I want to make sure that I moisten it really good, so that way when I add water to it later, it'll absorb it rather than just drain off and go straight to the bottom. I've already added water to this mix, so all I'm going to do is dump it into my trays. So now that I've covered my trays, and by the way, this is a 50 cell plug tray, I'm just going to use this spatula to basically wipe away all the soil from the top. The important part about this is I like to just basically wipe it off, and this just achieves 2 things. It keeps the cell from getting compacted, because if you really take it and you really compact it down too much, it'll be really tough for the roots of the seed to get into there. So I like to make sure that it's nice and fluffy, and as well as it just kind of leaves it off of the top. So now we get to plant the seeds into the tray. Today, I'm going to be planting marigolds. Large, majestic 2-inch blooms with petals in russet red to bronze and fine gold rims. I've actually planted a lot of my other vegetable seeds, but I'll show you those later. And today I'm going to try these out because I'm hoping that planting the marigolds will actually keep the some of the bad bugs and rabbits and certain things at bay, and hopefully encourage some of the better insects into my garden. So I've poured out a couple of them into a little bowl right here, and since these seeds are kind of bigger, I'm just gonna use these tweezers right here to actually plant them right into the soil. With some of the other seeds like peppers, and depending on how small the seeds are, I'll use a little chopstick and I'll just make myself a little hole, and then I'll put the seed in and cover it over. Or sometimes, if the seeds are really tiny, I'll take a pinch and I'll just sprinkle a couple of them in there. I've got a million arugula down there because I did that. Let me just show you how I do this here. I'm just going to take one of these guys here and I'm just going to jam it right down into the soil. Bam. It's pretty easy. You just have to sit there and do it with all of them. So now that you've planted all the seeds into your soil, what I like to do is water. I like to do a nice watering so that way it's really nice and moist and it kind of settles things in a little bit. And then after I have it watered, the best thing that I've found is to use a little humidity dome like this. I have these little tiny humidity domes, and I have taller 7-inch humidity domes, but I think these actually work a little bit better when you're just getting started. But the biggest problem that you're going to run into is a balance between too much moisture when you come in and this whole plastic is covered in water, and too little moisture when you come in and it's completely bone dry and all of your seedlings are dead. So you really have to keep a very close eye on your plants the first couple of days after you plant them. The way that I do it is I take my plants and I'll put them on a heat mat with the light above them, and that keeps them nice and warm, and they'll germinate. After they germinate, I'll probably turn off the heat mat and keep the light really low, leave the humidity dome on just so that way it doesn't dry out. So this is actually a tray of lettuce that I've been growing for 4 days. And I know that because I put the dates on my little stickers here. We've got some radicchio and arugula, Swiss chard, all of my favorites. So hopefully I'll be eating these over the next couple of weeks, months. You can actually see really in here, this is the arugula where I did a little pinch and I get like 6 or 7 plants coming out of there. Makes for a really nice clump in the garden. And I've had this underneath of my light with a humidity dome on top of it. And I'll probably leave this humidity dome on for another week or 2 weeks, depending on how big these plants get. The temperature down there is around 75, 80 degrees. The lights come on in the morning at 8 o'clock. They go off at night at 10 o'clock. Now you have a pretty good idea as to what I'm doing, and hopefully that can help you in some way. So from Bonsai Terrarium headquarters, me, my 7 parakeets, and my other bird Clancy wish you a fond farewell.